Hi there, welcome to our Valentine's video in conjunction with Claire's Crafty Corner. So in today's video we're going to use this free-form edged mould and some clear resin. We're using J Diction, that's right, yes, J Diction resin, and some of this lovely paint relief pen by Pebeo. So keeping our fingers crossed this is all going to work because we've never done this kind of technique before. Wayne is doing the demonstrating. I'm Laura, I'm doing the voiceover. So here we are, we've got the clear resin there. Nice clean mould. Make sure that you wear a respirator mask, work in a well ventilated room, and that you've got the protective gloves on like he has here. So he's just found a few little bits and bobs attached to the mould. Attracts everything, these moulds sometimes. Yeah, just make sure your mould's nice and clean and you're working on a nice level surface. So there he is. It's crystal clear, this resin, and it needs to be, and all will be revealed towards the end of the video. You'll see why. So carefully pouring a thin layer into this mould like he's doing there, just making sure it gets to the edges. So it's literally probably a couple of millimeters thick, that's all. There we go, all the way around to the edge. The resin will make its way to the edges eventually, but it can be a bit difficult to judge it, especially if you just want a very thin layer of it. So there we are, almost all done. This video is quite a bit longer than our usual, so please bear with us. There's a few stages involved. Now, just to make sure that we don't get any little pesky bubbles stuck, because it will ruin the finished piece, he's just spritzing it with some of the 99.9% isopropyl alcohol. So this is then a couple of days later when it's completely fully cured. And what he's done in advance, by the way, is he has found a copyright-free image of some lovely roses, and he has drawn that then onto just a piece of paper. So he's placed it underneath the mould, going careful not to release the resin from the mould, and he's just carefully just pressing it down a bit so that he can see the image through the mould and through the resin. Now, he's going to use this, I think it is called paint relief. You can use it with glass painting and things like that. And he's going to use it. This is a silver coloured one by Pebeo. This bit is sped up, as you can see. And this is obviously a close-up too of where you can see the image. And he's using this tube with a very fine nozzle on it. It comes with a fine nozzle to draw an outline. Now, this is the first time either myself or Wayne have ever done this. And I think he's making quite a good job. Obviously, I have seen the finished piece and I think it looks beautiful. So there we are. He's showing that he's actually quite clever. Anyway, there we are. That's almost sort of halfway through there. Any little bits he's just tidying up using, I think that's a coffee stir stick, obviously a clean one, and then just wiping it off with a piece of kitchen roll. Just make sure it's completely clear. And, you know, if you need to remove anything. So then this is a day later. The paint relief pen has a tube thing, has completely cured and it's dry. And then this is actually me now. I'm wearing the pink gloves. He wears the black gloves. And I've also got some arm protectors over my sleeves and things there. So all I've done, as you can see up in the top right hand corner, there's a little mini mixing jug with a pink, well, it looks like paint solution. Now, this is some of the, I think it's called Classic Rose or Classic Pink acrylic paint. It's a really small amount of it with some of the clear resin mixed in. And then a little bit of the Vista white pigment, resin pigment mixed in with it to make the kind of pink that we wanted. And then you probably eagle-eyed of you just saw that I've got a lighter shade. So then what I've also got, which you can't see, it's off camera, is another of those little mixing jugs with mainly white Vista resin pigment and a tiny amount of the acrylic paint. Mixed it all up, added the resin, mixed it again, and there we go. There we are. You've got your two different shades of the pinks. So I just thought, you know, like you would in the natural world, if you're looking at roses, they're not just one colour. You can usually see highlights where the light hits them or they've faded slightly. You know, you don't usually get them so they're all just one colour red or just one colour pink. So I'm using a couple of different things to apply the paint. The purple sticks they're actually micro brushes, and just let you know, everything that we're using in this video is listed in the description box, usually with a link of where you can go to get it. So I use that. I've also got this little I think this is a tool for doing dotting, paint dotting, but I love using it in resin. It just pushes resin to the edges of where you want it to go. It also helped me combine the two different shades of the pink. There we are. And then I've got the other end of a different brush, which was a silicone brush there, that's got a little point to the edge of it. So almost done on this rose now. Just finishing off the last few bits, just blending them in a wee bit. Okay. Last little petal there. Okay, oh, a little bit of the highlight of the lighter pink. So hopefully you'll agree there that it actually, I mean, it looks very, very effective. There we are. Just making sure I'm happy with all of it. And then the next clip you'll see is actually a time-lapse version of Wayne doing the other pink roses. There we are. See, the black gloves. Doing the other little pink rose, and I think he's got a little bud there as well, pink rose bud, on the right hand side that he also does in the same way. There we go. Our concerns at this point were that perhaps the resin would flow over the silver relief paint that he put down as his outlines, and whether or not would it actually show up on the other side. Now, for the other two roses, we're going to use some red. Now, this is Vista pigment called Scotch Bonnet. That in the left-hand one, the darker one, had Scotch Bonnet. It also had Raven Black mixed in with it. The one on the right had Scotch Bonnet resin pigment, again by Vista, and also their Polar White. So here we are. This is Wayne doing the first of the red roses, adopting exactly the same method as we use for doing the pink ones. Just remembering that, obviously, like I said before, in nature, you're going to see different shades of red within red petals and red roses. So there we are. And he's opting to use the micro brush just to put it in. Make sure that you use the clean micro brush or a different micro brush for each of the different colours, because obviously the last thing you want to do is get the colours mixed where you don't want them. Unless, of course, you want more of a hybrid sort of looking rose, which has got, you know, I don't know if you've seen some that you can get where they do look like they are reddy pink in colour. Quite often see that in tulips as well, which is another one of my favourite flowers. So there we are. Hopefully you're enjoying this video. As I said, it is a rather lengthy one, but that is just purely because we didn't want to speed everything up. Believe it or not, most of these clips have been sped up though, because this did take a lot of time. You do need to be careful. You need to be quite precise with what you're doing so that you've got control over the resin. Now, if you don't want to use resin to do this particular stage, I suppose you could use acrylic paint, depending on, you know, what you feel comfortable doing. Yeah, you could use acrylic paint. You could you could do it with mica powders. Now, my goodness me, you could do colours of the rainbow with mica powders. You know, you could have all kinds of colours. Actually, purple would look beautiful. Shades of purples and lilacs and mauves would look absolutely gorgeous with this. But, you know, it's completely up to you. As I said, we'd opted to try and use resin because it's what we know. Yeah. And we wanted to see how much control will we be able to have over it, because resin's a tricky thing. Usually it moves and it continues to move, particularly if you're making things like coasters and trays and things like that. So you can have a lovely swirly pattern of resin that then continues to move whilst it's curing. And then you can end up with something that it's still just as beautiful, but it isn't what perhaps you'd wanted initially, or what it looked like initially. So there we are. He's just finishing up putting a few little highlights on that bit. Yeah. And there as well. Yeah, Wayne was definitely favouring those lovely little micro brushes. They're also very good for getting rid of any bubbles that come up in resin if you're doing other, projects, if you're doing key rings, jewellery, coasters, trays, like I said before, where you don't want bubbles. And we've actually got a few of these where we don't have the little sponge brush bit on the very end. I mean, these are, like I said, they're micro brushes and sponges, so you can just take the end off of it and you've just got a very fine piece of plastic. Goes to a point, so be careful if you are going to use it in your moulds to get rid of bubbles and things so it doesn't scratch the mould. Don't be heavy-handed, nice light touch, which is exactly the same sort of thing that Wayne is adopting here with the painting. Is a very light touch, little bit at a time. Obviously make sure that if you're going to do it in resin, that you use resin that's got a decent working time. Do not use a fast cure resin. Because, trust me, this took us a long time to do this stage. And what you won't see is when we'd finished using both of them, we still had sort of like half full mixing jugs. And I looked at it and I thought, this is starting to look like runny toffee consistency. Hopefully you know what I mean by that. And yeah, it was then a case of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What are we going to make with the leftover that's going to look all right? So we opted to make some little, they call them donuts. So not donuts that you eat donuts, Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme donuts, yum. Other brands, of course, are available and not sponsored. I mean donuts that you then can use to make into jewellery. So pendants, earrings, bracelets, that sort of thing. So that's what we have done with those, which you may actually see in a future video. So there we go. Just a bit more, and a bit more. Yeah. Feel free, if you want to fast forward to the next section. The next section is actually going to be a time-lapse clip of me doing the final rows using exactly the same colourway that Wayne's been using, these two lovely shades of red. And then after that, you will see Wayne actually doing the stems, because you've got to do the stem and the leaves, so all the foliage. So it actually, I mean, depending on how adventurous you were feeling, you could do just a single rose, and you could, oh gosh, you could do a single rose on a bookmark. Wow. Yep, sorry, just thought about that. You could do a single rose on a bookmark. You could do just the rose head itself with no stem and flowers on coasters, on trays. You could go to town on a tray. You could have a square or a round or an oval shaped tray, and you could do all of these different roses, and you could treat it like a full bouquet of roses, or any other flower actually, tulips, daisies, whatever you like, or a mix of all of them. And then you could do the same technique that we're doing here, but you could actually do it in sections. So you could make up enough of the different colours of resin to do one particular of the flowers, one particular type of the flowers that you've done the outlines for, leave it to cure, and then you could go on and do the next section of the painting with resin of the flowers. I think that would look fantastic. I mean, you could, depending on how creative you're feeling, and confident, of course, as well, how much time you've got. But I mean, you could do a whole picture. Oh God, I'm getting way too carried away now. I'm just thinking about everywhere in our home that we could have these things now. So here we are. Wayne is almost at the end there. You'll be glad to see. Last little bit. And then it's on to the time lapse of the other rose. Oh no, he's got another bit in the middle. Another bit in the middle. Almost forgot that. There we are. So what favourite flower is your favourite? Is it roses? I know Valentine's is supposed to be a very popular day for roses. It's very popular, obviously. But some people just don't like them. I mean, to be honest with you, I only like roses that have got a nice scent to them, a nice smell. So that tends to be not the kinds that you'd have in bouquets. That's more the kinds that you've got in your gardens. And if you're like us, we've got, I think it's about 3 or 4 different types of beautiful smelling roses that grow up, that climb up. They're climbing roses, climb up over the arches and things and that we've got in our garden, and they produce a lovely scent. But unfortunately you can't pick those because they're only ever on very short stems. But there we are. So yeah, there we go. That's him, done with that one. That's tiddly bit. He's very, very particular as well. But I think as well this was a little bit of nerves because we weren't sure how this was going to turn out. Hopefully you agree with us, and it looks pretty good so far. There we go. So he's just blending in now with the tip of the silicone brush there. Just trying to get it to shade. A bit like if you're using pencils or paints, you do your shading. So here's me doing the big rose on a time lapse very quickly. Obviously wasn't this quick in real life. I don't know if you can see there, those colours are really starting to thicken up a bit. So just trying to blend it in. There we go. Oh, sorry about the shadows there on the video. So there we are. So that's all the roses done. So this is the colours. These are the colours that we use. So it's sage green, raven black, and this, I think that's emerald. Is it emerald green? All by Vista. As we said below, we will list them in the description box for you to be able to use. So this is a mix of the emerald green, the sage green, and the black, just to try and get the right colour. And we opted to use, this is on a time lapse. Yeah, this is on a time lapse. So we opted to use just one colour, so the same colour for the leaves and the stems. Now, you know, you can do what we did with the roses if you want. You can make it as detailed, as complex as you wish. We just decided to stick with all one colour for the stems and the leaves. So just filling in where we needed to. Going very carefully as well. There are a lot of leaves on these. My concern at this point, and I did tell Wayne about this, was the fact that perhaps this particular colour would not show up on the finished piece. And you'll see why at the end, why I had those concerns. It's not a spoiler alert because the finished piece looks stunning. I know I'm biased, but it really does look stunning. There we go. Just a reminder then about liking, sharing and subscribing. Please also check out all the other artists that are in the collaboration, in this Valentine's themed collaboration with Claire's Crafty Corner. Thanks, Claire, for arranging these collabs. We did our first one in July last year and didn't think that we'd get very many views. Had never done resin work before then. Had done a bit of acrylic paint pouring and things and general painting and drawing. But we went from having gosh, 6 subscribers, and then had a think, did the collaboration, had a lot of views on the collaboration of the piece that we did for Christmas in July it was. And then I suppose it might have been, I think it was from September, early September last year, thought, you know, should we actually properly start uploading videos, do projects, upload videos? So we thought we'd give it a go, and since then we've grown. The channel is now has just over 1,000 subscribers. We reached the 1,000 subscriber mark about 4 days ago, I think. So we're really, really pleased with that. So if you are one of our subscribers and you're watching this, thanks ever so much. If you're not, and you've just found us because you're looking at the playlist and the collaboration, thank you for watching our video again. Why not, you know, like, share, and subscribe, because it's free and it really, really does help all us and all the other artists to grow their channel. So here we are. This is a couple of days later, and Wayne has made up some resin, and it is jet black. I think he used the Raven black again. The Vista pigment Raven black. So there we go. It is really deep in colour. Now, have you... this may have shocked some of you, because I expect some of you are thinking, oh my God, what on earth? Is this going to look all right when he demolds? Because this mould is meant to be demolded so that the top is on the bottom and the bottom is on the top. Hopefully that makes sense. So there we are, just making sure that it's as full as it needs to be. Yeah. Sorry about the reflection there. You can see that, obviously you can see now that we actually use our iPhones to film everything. We found that to be the best for us currently. And there's a little reflection of Wayne as well. So he's just spraying it with some isopropyl alcohol again, just to get rid of any little bubbles. And then he did babysit it, so he sat with it for a good hour. Now, this is a couple of days later. There you go, he's turned it over. It is completely cured. He's just carefully removing the mould. Carefully removing that mould. It looks like it's coming away easy enough. Hoping that this has worked. I'm really hoping that this has worked. So, there we are. Now, that... with the black background looks fantastic. I was concerned the leaves wouldn't stand out enough, but they have. There's a few little marks, and there are a few edges and with the outline where perhaps we could have gone over a little bit thicker. So I think for future self, there's a few things to note here. So this is the final shots here now, the final bit of video of this fantastic piece. You can see he's gone round the edges of it with his silver chrome pen, which I think just makes it pop just that bit more and matches up with the silver outlining from the glass relief paint. There we go. Just seeing around the edge there, as you can see, it's like a free-form edged mould. So you could use that as a picture. You could put some handles either end and use it as a tray. You could have it standing up on a bookshelf. You could have it on a wall. Anything really. I mean, I wouldn't want to put anything on it. But thank you ever so much for tuning in, everybody. Take care and goodbye.